Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Phil Perry alongside the Senator and I could not be happier to welcome in, back by popular demand, one of our favorite guests, Thor Nystrom out of Minnesota. He has been a draft analyst and expert for years. And Phil, you must feel humbled to be in the presence of...
Listen, all I know is I'm borderline intimidated because I'm on a podcast with not two of the world's biggest, but the world's two biggest J.J. McCarthy fans. We couldn't have Mr. and Mrs. McCarthy on the podcast and have any two bigger fans than Tommy Curran and Thor Nystrom when it comes to J.J. McCarthy. And so I want to ask Thor if he's recovered from J.J. McCarthy's preseason injury last season, that being as devastating as I know it was to Thor, just emotionally, mentally, and spiritually.
Yeah, it was a devastating turn of events, after that amazing first preseason game we had against the Raiders. And then 2 days later, I actually I was on a date. The date brought me to the night practices that the Vikings, this is a true story, I swear. And so I was going to go in person for the practice and we get there and then you get the report on Twitter of, JJ is not going to be at practice today. He's just having a little bit of knee soreness. Right. That was the first time we'd heard about it. I think it was Monday night. And I was just like, oh, no. And then the next day was when they said, the meniscus thing. But yeah, it's a tough scene. But, we're more concerned about the other years of his contract and going forward than that rookie year. So if it had to happen, that was the time.
It's funny. It worked out great for Jaden Daniels because he ends up winning Offensive Rookie of the Year, which certainly wouldn't have been something that he would have been able to secure.
Cleared the runway.
Of course.
If JJ was up and at him. Do you think he would have won the quarterback job? I'm going to stick on JJ. Do you think he would have won the quarterback job?
I think he had a shot. Yeah, I mean, he was already nipping on Sam's heels at that point after the first one, and they were going to start giving him even more of the first-team reps. Kevin O'Connell said that. There was 2 more to go. The distance was closing real quick. So, I mean, whether Darnold started the season and then, got yanked a couple games later, or I think there is a shot that JJ could have bypassed him in advance of week 1.
Okay, before I leave the room, just so you guys can have your JJ McCarthy moment here and have a little privacy. Thor, why the hell were they sniffing around Aaron Rodgers if this guy's so damn good?
Well, I think it was more Aaron Rodgers was sniffing around the Vikings, right? Like it was sort of like a throw yourself at someone kind of a deal. And I mean, you have to think about it at that point when it's one of the great quarterbacks of all time. And he's saying, I will sign for almost nothing if I can just sort of step into that starting job right there. Right. Like, cause you've seen the free agent class the Vikings had and everything like that. You at least have to have a discussion in your building once you get that call, and that's what it was. But yeah, I mean, they weren't gonna hand away the starting job next year. In something like that. And I don't know that Aaron wanted to come here with what the scenario would have been. So that's, they would have signed him for the monetary that he was asking for, but it's, at best for him, it would have been a competition that he would have had to agree to in advance or else you're QB2.
Last thing, before we get to the meat and potatoes, and I apologize to our loyal listeners right now, but our YouTube viewers are probably wondering about the panel of helmets behind you. It is impressive. I'm trying to discern, though, whether those are mini helmets or full-size helmets. Can you pluck one and show it to me, or is that just wallpaper?
Yeah. No, we'll grab Tulane. This is one of my favorites. No, they're mini helmets.
Coastal Carolina?
Those are big mini helmets.
I got the entire FBS back there. I finished, I think it was over this summer, last summer. So the 134, I got the 134th. I felt like Thanos getting the last deal on his ring, the Infinity Stone or whatever. I got all the NFL helmets. So we have those 32. And you guys probably can't see it, but I am 6 or so into my FCS collection now. That is the next frontier. FCS, I'm coming for you. If I got to go to bookstores, if I got to travel, right, because I can't get the things on Amazon, I will come and find your helmet, FCS.
That's funny because I was thinking to myself, that's got to be a $5,000-$6,000 collection, right there. Maybe more.
134 FBS helmets. I imagine they're a little easier to come by now, just just with Amazon,
Yeah.
Thor. Like they're just out there is my guess, but it's a lot of damn
I'm so
helmets.
behind. I would have said eBay. You going on Amazon for this stuff?
Yeah, mostly Amazon.
No, yeah, I would go on eBay.
Like, right when I started, like you could get them, especially the Power 5 ones for like $22 with shipping. Now, they're a bit more, but now like low 30s. But yeah, I knocked out a lot of it with that, and then we had to start getting more. Once you get into the outer rings of the FBS, you start getting down beyond the top G5 teams. That's where you got to start hunting individually. I had a spreadsheet.
Give me a for instance.
We got on the hunt. Well, like Georgia Southern was Georgia State was one of but those two were at the very end. Kennesaw State, the new FBS.
Of course.
Those ones I had to go on like niche websites. One of them, I think it was Kennesaw. I got very close to reaching out to like literally calling their bookstore. But then I found one. There was some sicko out there was selling a Kennesaw State mini helmet. So I was like, you found your customer.
Yeah, you're on the dark web looking for Kennesaw State mini helmets. It's the only place to find them.
Down in an alleyway with a long trench coat on. Hey, you have been, let's get to the football, outstanding at draft prep for years and in analyzing and trying to process who's who. We understand that Membou and Will Campbell are at the top of the food chain among offensive tackles. Let's start in the trenches and talk about what you think of the guys after Campbell and Membou, who the Patriots might be able to target if they trade back into the end of the first round or if they stay put at 34, is it, Phil?
They're at 38 in the second round.
38. Good job by me. I'm very first-round centric. Fill me in on some of those guys that the Patriots could be targeting and who would profit them. What? Profit? Who'd help them? Just say help.
Yeah, I mean, if it's at the top of the nightmare scenario for the Patriots, as you guys know, is if there's only one quarterback taken in the top three, right? The scenario where you're sitting pretty is if two of them are. It seems like it's less likely of that at this point, which juices the odds that the fourth pick becomes an offensive lineman, of course, right? But if you end up going a different direction, or if you end up having access to Hunter or Carter by hook or by crook with that. Then at the top of day two, I think an interesting scenario is the idea of trading back into the first round, because Josh Simmons coming off the season-ending injury, could that lead to a little fall? He is rated very highly on a few teams' boards. There's a couple of teams that think he's the best tackle in the class. So, like, if he ends up falling down because, we don't know if he'll be ready at the start of training camp, that could be where the Patriots swoop in with a little bit of a trade up. Josh Connerly Jr. would be another one. Or you could sort of go the other way. I think in round two, Ursary, who played college ball about a mile from where I'm sitting right now.
A little more intel on him for our listeners.
Yeah, he's a dancing bear. He's one of those guys. He's 335 pounds, and he has really, really light feet. He's interesting because he has the power, but he is a zone blocking dude because of the feet. The question with him in the NFL, of course, almost assuredly would be a right tackle. Can he hang up in pass pro out there? I would give him the shot for sure. I think if not, he becomes a really, really good guard. But that's the thing with him. You have the power and then you have the feet. He needs to clean up the technique a little bit. But in the zone running scheme, it's a huge dude who can get out to the second level and take the head off a linebacker.
Thor, you just came out with a 2-round mock draft. And you had the Patriots going with Armand Membou, who Tom just mentioned, out of Missouri. My guess is, you tell me if I'm wrong, you project him as being able to play left tackle. The Patriots have a right tackle. He's not a long-term answer by any means. It's Morgan Moses. He's 34 years old. He's been around the block. But you have them taking Armand Membou in the first round. So I'm just curious, do you feel like he'll be able to make that switch to the left side? And then in the second round, you have them taking a running back. And I would be curious to hear your best, in your opinion, sort of sub-backs, right? We call them third down backs, guys that aren't going to be able to complement somebody like Ramondre Stevenson. They have Antonio Gibson, but it sounds like they might be in the market for running back. You had them taking Travion Henderson in the second round, but I'd love to hear your favorites at that specific role at that position.
Yes, as far as Membou, I do think he could hang or transition to left tackle. Of course, that was a guy started 3 years at right tackle in the SEC, and last year was the dominant season. But the athleticism he has, I like his feet, and then he has the super duper long arms, right? And he actually measured in a bit taller than we thought as well. But the wingspan is really what did it in conjunction with his athleticism out there. He didn't have any problems with that, at right tackle for Missouri. I think he could transition for sure. In fact, I'll say this. I would be more comfortable with him at left tackle than Campbell. I do not think Campbell will be sticking a tackle in the NFL. We have, at this point, 40, 50 years of data on this. He is beneath that threshold. The amount of guys you can point to that were successful in the NFL at tackle with the arm length that Will Campbell has, it's a non-existent list, essentially. So Will Campbell, I think, would be a great guard. But I think it's a bridge too far if you were to take him and then expect him to step in right away at left tackle. Whereas, like I said, the Missouri kid, I do think he could. The running back, I like that fit with New England of Travion Henderson because I think he is such a good complement to Ramondre Stevenson. It's not a straight, and I know you're not asking this specifically about Henderson, but it's like, we have the airbacks, the third down guys. I'll talk about some of them that you get in day 3 in a second. Henderson, he can take a bigger work share than that, but you don't want to give him the bell cow work share because we saw the first 3 seasons Ohio State tried to do that. He got through the first season successfully. He was great. But then as a sophomore and a junior, Henderson's seasons ravaged by injuries. They bring in Judkins this past season. Because of that, Henderson was able to stay healthy for 16 games and making the explosive impact plays in the college football playoff. For instance, the 75-yard delayed screen touchdown right before halftime against Texas sort of cooked Texas's goose in that game, sort of flipped the thing when Texas had momentum. You don't get access to plays like that in high leverage spots at the end of the season when you're moving towards the winner if you give Travion Henderson too many touches. A very athletic guy. He's very good on passing downs, but he's different than some of these finesse dudes we've seen like of this ilk in the past. Travion is fearless and he's physical and sometimes almost to his own detriment. The way he runs, it's fearless and it's the straight ahead thing. Mm-hmm. He gets into some big time car collisions, and then the pass pro thing. That dude loves to scrap as much as anyone in this class, and also as a run blocker. Chip Kelly in that scheme, he'd bring out the 2 running backs, fake it the one way, and then Will Howard would be trailing around Henderson the other way, and Henderson would go and destroy some linebacker. Because of that physical bent of his game, you have to take some of that unnecessary between the tackles work from him. In this scenario, Ramondre Stevenson, he becomes your Quinshon Judkins, and then Travion gets to stay Travion. That would be a good fit. But if he's gone or the board just doesn't work out where the Patriots could take the running back there at the top of round 2, airbacks that I liked more the day 3 kind of guys. Brashard Smith from SMU is really intriguing. He was a slot receiver earlier in his career at Miami, goes to SMU, and SMU, I don't think people know this, they had a whole bunch of running backs in that room, were former 4-star recruits, high 4-star recruits, and Brashard Smith, he converts to running back and ends up overtaking all of them. He was a better runner than I thought he would be, but as a receiver, it's literally a slot receiver playing running back. I felt bad for the dudes who drew him, one of the linebackers, in the one-on-one drills in Mobile. He was annihilating people. He was wiping them off the face of the earth. I mean, you would see 10 yards of separation before the ball got there because that's how snappy he is. He'd be my top guy probably.
And that's one of the reasons we're asking about it is as Josh McDaniels comes back, we've always had, we call him speed back. I like airback. Is that what you're just calling them? Airbacks?
I like that too. Airback.
Yeah, I like airback. But they've always had an airback, a speed back, a sub back, a space back.
Pace back. I think you've used pace back.
Somebody said pace back to me once. I like that. So you get a pace back out there, but McDaniels has had him, whether it was, for God's sake, Kevin Falk to Shane Vereen to James White, throwing at Danny Woodhead, the ability of a guy like Rex Burkhead to be a dual threat kind of guy. So what I want you to play with me for a moment is, who's he like? So, Travion Henderson, who's he like? Sounds a little bit like Isaiah Pacheco.
The one name I've heard, Thor, the name that I've heard is Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, who does a little bit of everything, has done a little bit of everything just in terms of the size, not the biggest guy in the world, sub 6 feet, but right about 200 pounds and a really good athlete.
Yeah, the thing I like about that comp, it's the passing game contributions, and then it also sort of neatly hits on the durability thing. Aaron Jones, you mitigate some of the unnecessary damage. The better shot you have to have him at the end of the season at full strength, he gets nicked up sometimes. So I do like that one. Just in terms of the movement is why I didn't do that, because Travion has the NOS button, and then it's like I said, it's just straight ahead. He's just a burner. Whereas Jones a bit more fluid. It's not like he's a bum athlete, but it's more the gliding kind of a thing. My comp for Travion is Reggie Bush, because it's that same sort of linear running style, and then just speed for days and awesome on passing downs. Maybe Reggie Bush, who's more a fatalistic Reggie Bush, or Reggie Bush looking for more contact.
Why'd you laugh at the Isaiah Pacheco? You pointed like that, actually.
Well, because I have Isaiah. I use that comp for a different back in this class.
Who dat?
Bayshell Tootin, the guy I call King Tootin. I think they're in the same physical package.
Where's he out of?
Yeah,
Vatek.
I knew that. Well, I should just ask Phil. Why am I asking Thor? He's right next to him.
I love Bayshell Tootin. I'm going to start calling him King Tootin as well. This guy's electric, isn't he, Thor?
Super electric, yeah, and he has that speed, and the thing where it reminds both the speed, but where it reminds you of Pacheco too. Sometimes Pacheco, it's like he's driving around at 100 miles per hour, but he has a blindfold on sometimes, and it's like you hold your breath. You're like, what's going to happen next? Because kinetic or out of control, however you want to say it, but like sometimes the decisions that they make, it's just breakneck, and it's like we'll apologize later or whatever. That's sort of like Tootin. The vision probably needs to get a little bit better, but I do like sort of that breakneck kinetic thing, because he gets on top of the defense really quick. Same as Pacheco. Tootin, he has to clean up the ball security. That's the one other thing with him. He had 5 fumbles last year, and I don't know if it's a ball security thing or if it's a straight hands thing, because Virginia Tech started throwing him the ball less last year. But as far as like a pure home run hitter, that's what that dude does. He's at the back of the batter's box. He's swinging from the heels. He's trying to hit dingers.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to ask about some receivers. I know Tom's interested in Tet McMillan and your take on him, but I also wanted you to try to make a choice, Thor, between 2 undersized but really athletic, looking like slot receiver types who reportedly have visited the Patriots. So there's some level of interest in Kyle Williams from Washington State and Jalen Noel, or Jalen Knoll. Not quite sure on the pronunciation there quite yet. From Iowa State. The latter. So Jalen Knoll. Both pretty freaky, both really fast, and I'm not sure either one are quite like the Wes Welker type that Josh McDaniels is used to in the slot. But I'm curious, if you had to pick between one of those guys, who you'd prefer.
Noel for sure, and I could absolutely see that. Now he gets nitpicked because of the size, and then he's confined to the slot. But Noel is going to start from day one in the NFL in the slot, and he's going to start there for a decade. He's super duper reliable. He can handle the volume. He's a good route runner. He's athletic. But the thing where it sort of elevates with him beyond some of these other guys of that ilk is he wins at the third level of the field. He can do that for you, and to have a field stretcher at the slot who also gives you the efficiency, I think is sort of cool with him. And in this crappy receiver class, I think he's undervalued. Because the return you're going to get back at the slot that you take him far more attractive in that case than I think with a lot of these other guys, and I think in that offensive system he would make a ton of sense. Kyle Williams, it's the route running thing with him. It's not as impressive athletically or coming off the bus or whatever. But we got to see this at the Senior Bowl. He had some of the best releases we saw there. His feet are just like it's like the chef that's chopping the vegetables, just so fast. Like it's hard to it's hard to stay with. And it's like the defensive back, you're trying to gauge where's this guy going to go. It's just so hard. Stay with the footwork and then try to ascertain where he's going and jump routes, stuff like that. Very, very smooth, good route runner. You're not getting him off the line. His release package is too good. And then he's versatile. You can move Kyle Williams where you want to play him. So Kyle Williams, to me, that's more like a solid starter. Like a guy that probably begins his career, as like a fourth receiver. But I think he's someone who develops into an important cog for a team long term. He's certainly not going to be a wide receiver one, but like as a third option in a receiving core, he's going to because then you're drawing the most advantageous coverage response. The worst cover guy or whatever, and he's going to beat them 1-on-1.
0 to 10. What is the likelihood that Ted McMillan breaks a fan base's heart?
Just based on like disappointing production time?
Yeah, you think you're getting the best 6'4", 220 guy in the draft, and it turns out that he's a 41 catch guy and he had a 53 catch season and just plays 9 games.
We call this locally here, Thor. We call this the N'Keal Harry factor. What's the N'Keal Harry factor? 1 to 10 for Ted McMillan.
Well, in terms I would put that at like 2.
Good.
But the thing where I think he, if he ends up going, top 10, or if he ends up going 12 to Dallas or whatever, I do think, probably a sect of the fan base going to think he's a superstar. What I don't think he is a superstar. What I think he is, it's either a low end 1 or ideally an awesome number 2. Think of T. Higgins across from Jamar Chase. A lot of similarities there. Drake London, that's been bandied about. I agree with that. Very similar in terms of that. It's a pretty fascinating evaluation with Ted. And I think some people nitpick him without understanding some context. You hear a lot of the thing of he can't separate. Yes and no. That's not. I wouldn't put it that way necessarily. That you look at his separation rate, the percentiles. Ted McMillan had one of the highest in the nation against zone coverage. He's one of the best zone receivers. The thing where the defense, the beat after the snap, the back half of it, they start to make their movements. He knows where they're going based on the look right after the snap, and then thus where the open spots of grass are about to open before they do.
Just to interrupt. So he's really a sharp player from what you're saying.
Very sharp, yeah. He's very sure with the coverage stuff. He's really, really good with that. So he was like 97 percentile in that, the wide open targets against zone. But then on the other end of it, he's like in the 30th percentile or 20th percent, as far as separation rate against man coverage. But here's the point, the contextual point I want to make. He's not the only one like this. Some of the, Higgins was a little bit like this at Clemson. He is not, it's not, I'm trying to think how, Ted wants the dude around him in man coverage. It's like a baby's blanket sort of a thing. When he gets to the catch point, he wants to know exactly where you are. It's like feeling back there. Sure. He doesn't mind the jostling. He actually likes the jostling going through his back. It's not going to hurt his concentration. So he likes that. And he wants to know where the guy is when he's down the field in man coverage. Yeah, because the contortionism with his body, he's really good at, he has like this Gumby body, it's like super duper stretched out. It's like contortionist. And then he's got these long arms. And so he's got the catch radius of an Indian god. Right. And so he knows how to use that body. He'll contort for and spear balls outside of his frame, but he wants that defender there with him. It's a different game. It's a different strategy than, for instance, Matthew Golden. So it's not really fair to compare their separation percentiles against each other.
Philly.
Thor, there was one other name that I wanted to ask you about, and these are defensive front types. I think this is still sort of a need for the Patriots. Maybe not necessarily that interior pass rusher like a Milton Williams, who they just signed in free agency. But again, I'm going back through now some of the 30 visits for the Patriots, and teams do 30 visits for all sorts of different reasons. A lot of times to check on medical. It's to just gather more intel. Doesn't mean they're drafting these guys. But Nick Scorton from Texas A&M is a name that I think is flown under the radar a little bit because he has a teammate who is considered maybe one of the best athletes we've ever seen in the NFL draft, despite not having amazing production. And so I'm curious your thoughts on Scurton, and if there are other bigger body types, like day 2 types, where the Patriots might be able to add to the trenches on the defensive side of the ball, because I think they may still feel like that's a need.
Yeah, I it's interesting with Scurton, the differences in the situations he was in, because the first couple of years of his career, he was the marked man on Purdue's defensive line. They had the crappy team there, and then so he sort of got ganged up on, but his game is going berserker. He's a power end, right? And so like he's going to set the clean edge for you against the run, and then it's the bully ball thing as a pass rusher. He'll play off the power. He's obviously a really good bull rusher, but he'll counter off that, or if the guy's sitting too dead right on the heat, back on his heels, he'll do different stuff like that. But he not the bendy, twitchy freak. It's just a totally opposite game, for instance, of a James Pierce. But I like him, Scurton, where he's going to end up going. Probably right around where the Patriots pick in round 2, regardless of whether that's the Patriots or not. But it's a guy who, a year ago, he probably would have gone a little bit higher, but he ended up transferring to Texas A&M, and it's sort of a trade where like they had just lost Walter Nolan, and then they bring in Scurton, not the same position, but like, that's sort of how it went down. And Scurton was telling us at the Combine that the scheme that they run there, as far as pass rushing, there's more containment responsibility. There's not as much pin your ears back as with some other teams. And this is sort of similar to how Georgia runs it. Some of these Georgia freak defensive linemen we've had in the past, you have the thing both of the rotation they use, but then also the defensive ends. You are not allowed to let the quarterback break containment. So that, it takes a little bit of juice off the coming forward. But Scurton's a two-way end that, like I said, I think he's going to provide good value on draft weekend, top of the second round.
I have 2 more questions. The first is kind of multi-tiered, but it is, do you adore Tyler Warren like I adore Tyler Warren? And then give me the skinny on center Drew Kendall and right tackle Ozzie Trapillo and their relevance to the Patriots, who could use players at both of the positions that those guys play. So first Warren, then those other 2.
Yeah, starting with Warren. Yes, I love Warren. Wears 44 because him and his dad were obsessed with John Riggins when he was a kid, and he remains obsessed with John Riggins. And that's the way that he runs. Is just like John Riggins. If John Riggins had been 6'6", 262. It's the same sort of berserker thing. Get out of the way, get off the train tracks kind of a deal when he has the ball. He did all the Wildcat quarterback stuff last year and averaged over 8 yards a carry. 5.0 of them came after contact. I think it was 11 broken tackles on 20 attempts. So pretty good. You have all the manufactured touch stuff, which is typically indicative of like the sort of the next level talents in tight end in college when the teams are going the way extra mile to get them the ball. It's what we saw with Brock Bowers the year before. Shift him into the backfield, do the end around stuff with him. The trick plays with Tyler Warren, the one against USC where he snapped it and he was the center, everyone lined up to his right, and then he went deep and he mossed someone in the end zone. Tyler Warren came into college as a 3-star dual threat quarterback. The initial idea with Penn State was he's going to replace Will Levis as the short yardage quarterback when Will Levis inevitably transfers out, because Will Levis was stuck behind Sean Clifford. But the Penn State coaching staff got a good look at Tyler Warren throwing the ball, and they were like, oh, maybe we'll try tight end. But he still can throw it a little bit. I mean, I think he completed 3 or 4 balls last year. All this trick play stuff. As a receiver down the field, he reminds me more of Jeremy Shockey. Is kind of how that part of his game plays. But the manufactured touch stuff will remind you a bit of a bigger Brock Bowers. But the downside of Warren's game, he's not a good blocker. And I don't know inline if he ever will be. And one of the big, he's still learning the position. Of course, he transitioned there with Penn State. So hopefully the technique can get a little bit better. But the one part of his physical package that is non-ideal is he has short arms. That didn't affect him down the field. He has good extension for the ball. He uses his body really well. So in contested situation, I've never seen that be a problem for him. It absolutely is as a blocker. It absolutely is. When he's Yeah.
I'm sorry. No. It's such good content. But what about the other 2 cats there? Kendall and Trapilla.
I had a conversation about Kendall with someone on the phone a couple of days ago where I was asking, why am I alone on this? What is everyone else missing here? Or am I the one missing something? I don't understand why Kendall doesn't get more love. Good player. He has a good frame. The multi-year guy, he was good against the pass. He is a good run blocker. His father was a first-round pick who was a starting center at Boston College, was in the NFL for 14 years or whatever with the Seahawks. The NFL loves its bloodlines. I know Kendall has the shorter arms. It's like the nitpick on that evaluation. All these freaking centers have small arms. Jonah Monheim, I sat behind Jonah Monheim on the plane to the NFL Combine. It was like, I got longer arms than that guy. It's like, so we got some real, T-Rex arm type centers in this class. Like, he's not outlandish in terms of that. So I'm surprised that Kendall is my number. I got him way higher. He's my number 2 center. I got him way higher than other people. So it's like, am I missing something? Is other people missing something? But I'm happy to go down with the ship on that one. I like him as a player. And then Ozzy, I think Ozzy's a little bit underrated too. I have Ozzy tackle 7. He's an athletic skyscraper.
Is that specific right tackle or is that either side?
I put him at right.
Yeah.
I put him at right. But like he's a good enough athlete, certainly with the length that, if a team really, you could try it initially, but like I'd be more comfortable just thinking about it projecting as the right tackle. But I love the length and I love the way that he uses the length. He gets the adequate depth. And then like at that point, you sort of have to run around a cruise ship because he's got like the long, like octopus arms, and so you have to sort of do the wide arc around him. So the pass going to be out by then. So I like that sort of stuff. The play strength, it's not elite or anything like that. You probably have to be in a zone system, but I like the tools that he brings to the NFL. And, I have him right behind that consensus top 6, right? Ursery being the last of the consensus top 6, Connerly right above him. But yeah, for me, it's Ozzy with the bullet there at tackle 7.
I've kept you a long time. I do want to ask you one last one. Are you stunned that the Patriots wide receiver picks, Jalen Polk and Javon Baker, sucked? Are you surprised on either?
No, the Polk pick was a head scratcher for me, particularly with some of the guys there. Baker, as you guys know, that was just a straight shoot the moon. Can you get his head screwed on straight? Hopefully he does this year. If not, it didn't cost you much to get on that ride, right? And then you can get off it. But hopefully the Patriots can go out and draft some guys. Signing at Diggs was nice. Let's go out and get another starter in the draft this year.
All right, buddy, you're fantastic. So much fun to listen to. So much fun to talk to. Really appreciate it.
You're
appreciate it, guys.
Thor, we're going to work on getting you a Georgetown football helmet. That is one of those FCS schools. Patriot League pride. We're going to figure that thing out for you as a thank you.
I need Georgetown.
You're always so great with us.
Man, that would be appreciated. Appreciate you guys.
We're on it.
Thank you, Thor Nystrom. Appreciate you so much. Take care.